All right, guys, and here on our news it says this signal has now flashed only 4 times in XRP's entire history of data. All right, imagine staring at a chart that spans over 12 years of market history and suddenly noticing a specific marker that has only appeared 3 previous times. Every single time it showed up, the market didn't just drift. It underwent a massive structural transformation. Right now, as of late July 2026, that exact pattern has officially registered for the 4th time in history. While the broader market gets distracted by daily volatility and short-term noise, high-level chartists are looking at a macro structural shift that aligns perfectly with the previous historic expansions. So in this video, we are dissecting this rare occurrence step by step to see why this specific setup is generating so much discussion among institutional and retail traders alike. So let's start with our very first question about what is the rare signal that flashed for only the 4th time in history. Crypto analyst ChartNerd here, known as ChartNerd TA here on X, recently shared a multi-year analysis focusing on an indicator framework that separates macro market momentum into distinct red and green trends bands. In his latest post, he brought direct attention to a setup that has only formed 4 times across XRP's entire available dataset. The indicator structure tracks long-term cyclical movements by measuring price pullbacks relative to a lower dynamic boundary within a green support channel. When XRP cools off after a significant expansion phase and consolidates precisely into the lower section of this green band, the system registers what ChartNerd terms as bull switch. ChartNerd specifically noted that these setups are not the kind of signs to be ignoring, pointing out that historical precedent favors massive structural continuations once this consolidation phase reaches maturity. Now, here's my opinion. I find macro multi-year indicators far more telling than daily or weekly noise. When an asset trades for over a decade and a specific mathematical or band-based setup only appears 4 times, it forces you to respect the structural repeatability. It tells me that despite changing market participants, the underlying liquidity cycles follow a distinct rhythm. Now, how did the previous 3 trigger signals play out historical cycles? Now, to understand why this 4th occurrence is drawing so much scrutiny, we have to look back at the historical timeline provided in ChartNerd's macro chart right here, which spans from 2014 through 2016. All right, the analysts map out 3 previous bull switch triggers across XRP's trading lifespan. The first trigger was on 2017 cycle, identified a major multi-year consolidation low that preceded XRP's record-breaking run-up to $3.84 in early 2018. Now, the second trigger was on 2020 cycle, occurred after an extended period of market depression, marking a dynamic support zone before XRP surged to over $1.96 in 2021 despite significant macroeconomic pressure. And the third trigger was on 2022 cycle. This flashed during the lower boundary touch point of the previous cycle, setting the foundation for the macro rise back toward the $3.65 peak recorded in July 2025. ChartNerd's updated long-term chart identifies 2026 as the 4th historical trigger point, suggesting that the current market phase is forming the baseline for the next macro expansion phase. Now, here's my opinion. Looking back at 2017, 2020, and 2022, the common denominator was market fatigue. Every time a bull switch triggered, sentiment was extremely low and retail interest had largely dried up. As a market observer, seeing the 2026 setup mirror those exact psychological conditions makes the historical comparison compelling. It shows that macro bottoms are built during periods of quiet consolidation, not during hype-driven spikes. Now, where does XRP stand following its pullback from $3.65 peak? To evaluate where we sit right now, we have to trace the price path over the past years. XRP recorded a major peak of $3.65 in July 2025. Since reaching that level, the asset has experienced a prolonged retracement, bringing price levels down into the $1.10 to $1.13 region here in late July 2023. This retracement represents a reduction of roughly 69% from its 2025 peak. According to ChartNerd's chart structure right here, this decline has pulled XRP directly into the lower boundary of the highlighted green trend band, the exact spot where the earlier bull switch boxes were marked. Right, the asset has been consolidating within this specific range for an extended period, creating a firm base that matches the structural placement of the previous three signals. Now, here's my opinion. A 69% retracement sounds dramatic to short-term traders, but when you zoom out to a multi-year log scale chart, it looks like a standard reset. My observation is that XRP needed to absorb the selling pressure from its $3.65 high to establish a durable price floor, holding above the $1 to $1.10 baseline, while this fourth signal forms gives the asset a strong foundation to build upon. Now, could a prolonged move head toward the $27 target? While ChartNerd did not attach a strict timeline or guaranteed price target to this specific post, his previous long-term projections have outlined a potential macro trajectory reaching as high as $27.60. An expansion from current levels around $1.10 to $1.13 up to $27 would represent a price increase exceeding 2,000%. This magnitude of market, while large in absolute terms, is proportional to the percentage gains delivered during earlier bull switch cycles in XRP's historical chart. The analysis relies on the concept that when an asset breaks out of a multi-year consolidation box at the bottom of a macro green band, the resulting expansion can be exponential. Now, here is my opinion. A target like $27 sounds extraordinary at first glance, but crypto history shows us that long-period market consolidations often store tremendous energy. From my perspective as a market observer, $27 isn't something that happens overnight. However, if the institutional ecosystem continues to integrate on-chain liquidity and macro regulations settle, a 2,000% move over a multi-year bull cycle is well within the realm of historical crypto possibilities. Now, what are the traders watching as the fourth signal unfolds? With the fourth bull switch officially marked on the chart, market participants are watching key technical parameters to see if history will indeed repeat itself. The primary focus remains on whether XRP can maintain its footing within the lower dynamic green band. Traders tracking the setup are watching for two main factors. First is the support defense. right? It's the support defense, holding the critical support zone between $1 and $1.10 to ensure the long-term structural pattern remains valid. Second is the momentum shift, a gradual turn upward out of the green consolidation zone, signaling that the lower boundary touch point is complete and the next trend phase has begun. As ChartNerd emphasized, the core of this thesis relies on the repeated mathematical structure across XRP's history rather than short-term headlines or daily price fluctuations. Now, here's my opinion. The keyword here is patience. Historically, after a bull switch signal flashes, the market doesn't always shoot up immediately on day one. It often spends weeks or months quietly building a base. As someone who analyzes market structures, I will be watching to see if buyers consistently defend this $1.10 area. If this floor holds firm, the validity of this fourth signal grows stronger by the day. Alright, and finally, here is our overall conclusion. The reappearance of the bull switch signal on XRP's long-term chart marks a rare moment in technical analysis. Occurring 4 times since 2014, this setup has historically served as a reliable footprint for major cyclical shifts, preceding key expansions in 2017, 2020, and 2022. With XRP currently consolidating near $1.10 to $1.13, following its retracement from $3.65, the price action is once again positioned at the lower dynamic boundary of its macro support band. While market outcomes are never guaranteed, the structural alignment highlighted by analyst ChartNerd provides a compelling blueprint for long-term observers tracking XRP's next major cycle. Alright, and this finally ends our video. Thank you very much for watching and see you on the next one. Or you might just as well check this next recommended video right here.